Hey, welcome to the Steel Lodge. Spider-Man Remastered just hit PC recently, and we're already seeing some great mods, such as the ability to play as Stan Lee, Black Cat, or Kingpin in the game. Now, I wanted to do this on my Steam Deck, but I didn't really see any great resources or guides online for how to set this up, so I decided I'd make my own. One thing to keep in mind about this video is that this is less than a week after the game has launched on the PC, and because of that, the mod tools haven't matured yet. People in Nexus Mods are definitely using the mod tool I'm using in this video, but it's still in its 1.0 version, so it'll get better over time, and processes might change, so just keep that in mind. Since it's still really early, some of these model swap mods look pretty goofy in the game right now, because the animations don't fit the character models the best, because they are meant for Spider-Man, and then they're being applied to something like Stan Lee or Kingpin, where their skeletons for the model don't really fit Peter Parker's skeletons. Hopefully that'll get better down the line, but there are simple mods where they just swap the textures on some of the costumes already. That should work pretty fine. With all that being said, consider subscribing to the Steel Lodge. I have a lot of Steam Deck guides and game analysis on the channel, as well as other gaming videos. Now let's jump into the guide. The first thing we want to do is go to Nexus Mods and find the Spider-Man PC modding tool. Download this, and then we're going to add it to Steam in a little bit. This modding tool is still in version 1 right now, but a lot of model swap mods and other mods use this to make installation pretty straightforward and easy. The links for all the modding tools and mods I use today will be in the description below, so check down there if you need more information. Now there's a small problem with the Spider-Man modding tool, and that is that it's a .exe. It's meant to run on Windows machines originally. But luckily, if we add this to Steam and then force it to use a version of Proton, we can have this tool running just fine on the Steam Deck. Now here's where I actually ran into some issues initially. I'll let you know what happened so you can avoid them. At first I had the game installed to my internal SSD because I wanted that faster load time. Unfortunately, the file browser in the mod tool can't see hidden folders as far as I could tell, so there was no luck in actually navigating to where my game was installed. The solution for this was to move the game to my micro SD card, but once I had done that, the game still couldn't be found because I couldn't open that drive in the File Explorer at all. Luckily, I remember there's a launch option command you can set for games on the Steam Deck, and that will let them see your micro SD card. So I set that launch option command that's on the screen now and will be in the description, and with that, when I opened the File Explorer and navigated through the drives, I actually could see my micro SD card here, and because of that, I could open up the Spider-Man folder. Now that we can see the Spider-Man game directory, navigate to it, and then open the Assets Archive, and then hit Save. Now that we've located the asset archive, the tool is going to ask us to convert the asset archives. Now on the website it says this takes 15 to 20 minutes, but this actually takes far longer on the Steam Deck, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's because we're on the micro SD card and the write speeds there are slower. Luckily this only needs to happen one time, but be prepared to leave your Steam Deck alone for about 2 hours to let this process finish. Now once the asset archive is done converting, I highly recommend you back up your asset archive in your game directory. This file is rather large, but if you have any problems installing mods later on, you can always replace the files that are overwritten with these ones that you backed up, and that will save you a lot of headache instead of having to reinstall the game. I do want to note here, when you close the tool down and then reopen it later, it'll go right to your asset archive and you hit save right away and you don't need to relocate it. And luckily you don't need to reconvert anything either, because the first time I did it I was scared I would need to reconvert it, and it would really just be a waste of time at that point. Now that the mod tool is actually set up, we can start adding mods to the game. The first one I'll do here is Stan Lee, and we'll just go through the whole process. First, go to Nexus Mods and download the mod that you want to use, in this case the Stan Lee one in the description below. Make sure you read the posts for the Nexus Mods pages because they're going to vary for the installation process and what files it might have included with them. Now this Stan Lee is pretty similar to the other model swaps I saw, where it has a save file and then has various files for the mod tool to install, and that can change the model that you're using. In this case, we have 3 SMPC mod files, and whatever one you pick to install with the mod tool will determine the outfit that Stan Lee will have in your game. All the mods I've tried so far download as RAR files, and then you can just open them with the default file explorer built into the Steam Deck. Once you've done that, just extract the contents into another folder, and then we can start moving around the files that we want. The first thing we're going to do is copy the slot 1 save file here from the mod into our actual save file location on the Steam Deck. On a Windows machine, the save file for Spider-Man is in the User Documents folder, so in this case we need to go to the Compat Data folder for Spider-Man, and then go to the specific game ID that Spider-Man has with Steam, and at that point there might be a different string of numbers here for the user. Go into there, and then you'll have all your save data. I highly recommend you back up your own save data before you drop new save files in here, because you never know what could happen. Now in this case, there's different slots for the Spider-Man game, or at the start of the game you can press B and select a profile. The first save profile actually responds to the index of 0, while the second save profile will correspond to the index of 1, which is this one that we just dropped in. Once you've moved the save data open the mod tool in Steam again, hit File and select your archive, and then just hit Save right away. It already knows where your archive is. You should see all the files here populate pretty fast, and then we can just hit the install mod button and then navigate to where our mod is installed. For me, I just have it in the downloads folder for my Steam Deck, so I go there, and then I pick the appropriate mod file that corresponds to the outfit that I want Stanley to have in game, which is just his default one here. So in the case for this mod and a lot of the other model swaps, this one replaces the default Peter Parker model. And the reason we're using the save file that we are is because that one has Peter Parker loaded into free roam instead of the default Spider-Man skin. You can mess with these mods if you want to try to make them replace other skins, but for the purpose of the video, we're not going to do that today. Now we just have to wait for the mod to install, and on the Steam Deck here, I think the micro SD card's a bottleneck because this actually takes quite a bit of time. I imagine on a desktop PC this would go a lot quicker, so just sit back and be patient while the mod installs, and then when it finishes up, it should let you know. In order to save time though, I just cut around the installation process here, but it did take a couple of minutes. Assuming everything went well, load into the modded profile, and then probably go to the load game and pick the manual save there instead of the auto one. Just a note, if you swap your suit, it will actually take you out of the mod, and then you can't get back into it unless you go to the profile and then load that save that was set up. This even includes swapping your suit in photo mode, so just be aware. Using the method I showed you here today, you should be able to use most of the model swap and suit swap mods on Nexus Mods. For this video, I tested 3 different model swaps, the Kingpin, Stanley, and Black Cat ones, and as I mentioned earlier, there are definitely some animation issues that you're going to encounter here, and I want to highlight some of the funnier bits I saw with these characters animating, and this is just because the Peter Parker skeleton for animation is definitely different than the ones that these characters have, and his skeleton doesn't exactly fit these characters. And as I mentioned earlier, we're still really early in the modding scene for the PC, so there's a chance that these things could get better over time, and I'm sure they will. Now we'll have some fun looking at how some of these models look when you're doing certain animations. I like using photo mode a lot when I have these mods installed because you can get some pretty interesting photos, but right here I'm trying to perch Kingpin up, and even Stanley does this kind of weird thing with his fingers and his shoulders where the model totally doesn't fit the skeleton that's being applied to it, so he looks pretty funny here. Now I can totally understand why the Kingpin one is difficult for them to use because Kingpin's proportions are so much different than Spider-Man. I actually think the Black Cat one looks really good here for the most part, but if you look at her arms, you'll notice they're all jacked up and contorted in unnatural ways, so hopefully the mod author can get that figured out. I know they already updated this a little bit with some fixes, so I don't know if this is a problem for everybody using this mod, but on my end, her arms are definitely pretty messed up. I'd say this is probably the funniest one I encountered so far. In the menus, Stanley's model gets pretty messed up here. In the suit powers one, it's not so bad, but when you actually swap back, he kind of looks like a human spider. His arms are definitely really messed up there, so, you know, they'll fix things over time, but for now, it's pretty funny to see some of these mods in development while they're still fine-tuning things. I haven't seen it on Nexus Mods yet, but I'm sure people are going to add the original Peter Parker model to the game. The one from the PS4 version, not the PS5 version, because they changed the face of the model a little bit there. There's also a ton of suit mods on Nexus Mods. I didn't really check any of them out for the time being. I definitely wanted to focus on the model swaps because I thought they were more interesting. There's already so many suits in the game, but there are some, like the symbiote suit from Spider-Man 3, that are on the Nexus Mods that I want to add to my game down the line. That about wraps it up for today though, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative, and I'll leave you with some footage here of Stanley swinging around the city, getting some cool action shots. If you haven't subscribed to the Steel Lodge yet, consider doing so. I have a ton of videos covering Steam Deck content on there and other gaming content as well. Other than that, thanks for the people that come back on my subscriber list, and have a good one, everybody.
Called this into the cops. They'll take over. Hey guys, you got prescriptions for this stuff?
Don't make me hurt you! Not fair! Not fair! Someone get him down!
Knocking the ever-loving stuffing out of dealers is my anti-drug.